Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, you know, yes. Hey, I am John. This is Oliver. We're both from Eastpoint. We're here to talk about app development, specifically today, MAUI app development, the new technology being launched or just been launched by Microsoft that Oliver has informed me. Oliver is our mobile app development specialist. So we're here to get some of his insights into what this is going to mean for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm excited.
Tell us a bit about what you know about MAUI.
Oh, wow.
It's all new,
into that
it's all new, right?
away. Yeah. Well, new as can be. It's the general availability was released by Microsoft just before the build conference started.
So that's ready for people to use for real?
For real,
production apps?
For real, yeah. It really is for developers to say, okay, it's fully ready. It's been in release candidate mode for like the last 6 months or a bit more.
Right.
Yeah, when last November, when Microsoft was all about .NET 6, all the niceness that the web.
So have people been using it already? Because I remember going back for a few years when new versions of Microsoft products were launched. Yeah. People were like so desperate to get on them. You know, it was always like, that's past, get rid of the old stuff and start using the new things.
Sure,
like,
sure.
Has that been happening with MAUI?
I have to be honest, I don't know if the ecosystems of, let's say iOS, Android, even the Mac OS stuff, if people are using MAUI to releasing it just yet, but all the infrastructure is ready for them. Generally, what I would tell people right now is don't really jump onto it for immediately. It's the reason why it was a release candidate for ages, is so that the early adopting developers could experiment, report issues to Microsoft, and they just say finish. Now it's generally available. It's you just got to keep an eye on this sort of the ecosystem, the NuGet packages, the libraries, and those creators now need to make, they had this time to react, but some of them do it in their own free time. They're not on like a tight corporate schedule. So it would take a little bit of time before the rest of the ecosystem.
So I took a look into this, and because we do a load of stuff with maps,
of course,
and one of our favorite libraries, MapSui.
Yeah.
I see they've done a bunch of stuff for MAUI. They've got like a sample project.
Sure.
But it's not obvious to me at the moment that that's ready to go.
Of course,
use it for real. So we're still using Xamarin.
That's right. Xamarin.Forms is our preference, and Xamarin all the way, and you can still use Xamarin, of course. It's just that Xamarin, it still has lots of love from Microsoft. They're maintaining it, but most of the attention has been on MAUI, and from this point onwards, it will be MAUI.
So what's your opinion? Is MAUI just like a fancy rebrand for Xamarin from Microsoft? Like,
oh wow, yeah.
Or is there more to it than that?
There is a bit more to it, but I'd say about 60% of that, personally, I would say is true. Okay. What you get this time around with MAUI is two or three things that I really like that Xamarin.Forms, let's say, we're not so strong at. Okay. So with MAUI, you can now target Mac OS as well with the Mac Catalyst.
Okay.
So that means you've got one code base and one UI layer. You implement that once, and then you're able to spit out for Android, iOS. It used to be Windows through UWP.
Yeah.
Now you could do that with the Mac OS.
So you couldn't use Xamarin.Forms to produce Mac apps?
I believe not.
Right.
That's my understanding. I've never tried doing
We'll check that before we publish
it. Yeah, don't quote me on it, but that's definitely one of the things to do. Another thing is it's really doubling down for a developer's experience, where you write your code once and it's distributing everywhere else, and you don't need to worry about the smaller details of the native platform native stuff as much.
So it simplifies it for developers?
That's right, yeah. So Xamarin.Forms, by default, you had multiple projects. So if you've got like new people coming into the company and you've got to train them to say we're doing cross-platform client-side app development, which is not on the web but more to do with desktop or mobile, it's so much easier for them to say, oh, it's just one project, to start with.
Okay.
So that's one project.
So we used to have like the shared library, so you had PCL to begin with, and then it became .NET Standard, and you'd always have an Android project.
That's right.
iOS project and UWP.
That's right, yeah.
Does anyone have that? I'm not sure. You had the option for UWP.
Yeah.
And I guess nobody was really asking for Mac at the time? Because I'm pretty certain you could do Mac with Xamarin Native, maybe.
Oh, I
might-
never tried, so
Yeah, so
I
nobody
don't
wanted
think
that, I
so.
guess.
No, because it wasn't there. You know, it was UWP, iOS,
Okay.
and Android was basically the strong one, and even UWP at the beginning was kind of forgotten about. But they've gone stronger and stronger with that.
So I mean, one of the things, so like loads of people, us, other, our customers, loads of other developers will have been developing apps using Xamarin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, any idea of what's going to be involved in like hauling all of that stuff from, these? I mean, they're not legacy apps. Presumably, they're relatively recent or mobile developed recently, perhaps.
Possibly, but we have seen our clients come with code base that's 4 years old from Xamarin native stuff. So you never know. You never know. Migration is always a challenge. Microsoft has there is complications with it, so there is quite a bit of documentation you got to go through.
But it's not like a flicking a switch kind of thing, and it just.
Yeah, for the most part, it is Xamarin's evolution. So Xamarin has become MAUI. Is this sort of narrative that's going. So for the most part, it should be straightforward, but it's not going to be as simple as like change configuration, click and go.
Yeah,
you've got to be able to do certain things to enable some of it.
Yeah, I've found that quite a lot recently with the back end stuff as well. Like there's these migration paths from one version of like .NET Core to 2 to 2.1.
That's right.
Never really works. Like it looks like it should. It looks like it kind of has, but there's always a lot more work involved in like keeping things up to date and evolving to the next
always
version.
And I think that would always be the case because Microsoft they've now got with the one .NET. This MAUI was part of that story. That's happening. So no more .NET Framework, .NET Core separation. They went to .NET Standard, and now it's just .NET. So it's .NET 6. So from this point onwards, at November, I'm expecting like .NET 7 to be released, and then next year, November, it'll be .NET 8, and every year that's the one cadence for everything.
So it's going to be a version
mobile,
every year.
Everything. That's it. Yeah, that's right. Microsoft's cadence. So that should simplify all these complexities that we used to have. And because it's cross-platform, for most cases, you don't need to worry about, it's only for Windows, it's only for Mac, those kind of things.
I mean, it's great to see Microsoft's commitment to this part because, we've seen before with things like, Silverlight, the famous one, where people piled in loads of investment, built these great products, and then eventually it just wasn't working for Microsoft and they dropped it. This seems like a real commitment to the future of cross-platform development using .NET.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for me, I'm excited. Ever since Microsoft acquired Xamarin and also GitHub, that already spoke to the nature of that we're going to go down that route, and they're constantly maintaining it. And it's amazing the stuff that they've put into MAUI.
Yeah.
One of the things that you get with MAUI is some of the stuff that was in the community toolkit is now just baked in, or Xamarin Essentials, the kind of stuff. It's not just the frameworks. There's the first functionalities that a lot of app developers needed anyway.
Right.
That's just baked in already, so you don't need to do any new installation configurations. So out of the box, you could do various things that help you. So as a productivity, and it's all about that, isn't it? When you do cross-platform apps, the strategy as a business, and you've got a team of developers on, like you're doing cross-platform app development because it's operationally efficient. I think that's my sort of number one selling point of it. If anybody needed to be sold on it,
it's so you've got like the initial build is obviously it's a lot easier. You need less programming languages for your team to have. It's really expensive. Sometimes impossible to have. Have your Kotlin expert, your Swift expert, then your whatever it is, C#, Node, Python, whoever's doing like the back end stuff. And it's, interchangeability is difficult for a developer to remain, an expert in all of those things because they move so quickly. So that's like the real benefit of building something that once that can target multiple different platforms.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes.
Yes, I agree. I'm excited about it. Another good thing that .NET MAUI, just to bring you in, you were able to do this in Xamarin.Forms always, but .NET MAUI out of the box does very good like dependency injection. So that's all the sort of good enterprise grade coding practices, that they would do is already baked into it.
So it's bringing in things that we're familiar with from other concepts. So a paradigm, so web, for example.
That's right. Yeah. So ASP.NET, everybody's familiar with the Microsoft extensions, the dependency, namespace, well, those kind of things, like configuration and things like that. Again, it's part of dotnetmaui. In Xamarin.Forms, you have to use, I don't know, like tiny IOC or
right.
I can't remember the other one, or there's even another one.
Yeah, Unity. Yeah.
But the IOC, not the gaming framework. Yeah. Now that comes in back then, which is great.
So we're going to do some follow-ups on this, right? This isn't like our only one. So it'd be great to hear from people who's watching.
Yeah.
Like anybody that's watching, questions that you've got about moving from Xamarin to MAUI, or any experiences that you've had of it. Challenges, anything you want to share. Undoubtedly, we're going to get a ton of people saying Xamarin sucks, MAUI's going to be the same. Like people who are all after Flutter or native development. That's all.
I think React Native is quite
React Native. That's big.
Popularity.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah. So we've been doing Xamarin stuff for our team's been doing Xamarin stuff for years, right? And years, that native like development is great. Kind of things that we use. Benefits like Bluetooth.
That's right.
All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, location-based stuff, Bluetooth. I like it. I like it because C# is a great language for me, and .NET ecosystem is good. It's going to be supported. You're not relying on some I was about to say something that I cannot say. I love C# based development because it's enterprise grade, and you don't see that many. For example, if you're into security, you don't see that many serious bugs reported on the .NET ecosystem because it's compiled well, and security is kind of like
Microsoft pay people not to
maybe there's
no truth in that.
Yeah. But for example, JavaScript is just notorious for bugs. And the same with PHP, anything that's doing like scripting language, basically.
Yeah. So I did correct yesterday. We're doing a little trial, some project with React.js on the front end.
Okay.
I used Visual Studio to create a default TypeScript project. Visual Studio 2022 TypeScript template. Immediately committed it to GitHub.
Yeah.
Within seconds, I had a Dependabot alert about a vulnerability in one of the things that was part of that default package.
Yeah, that's just it. And there's part of me that a long time ago I said, okay, I'm going to choose a language, and I chose C#. Because it was so cross-platform. I could do web, I could do mobile, and of course we talked about Unity earlier, but I was into game development, so if you do Unity, it was like you could do everything, at the time, and it still is the case.
Yeah.
So I'm totally keen for C# languages.
So
that's totally wrong. Sorry, C# as a language.
So MAUI,
sure,
it's most like Xamarin.Forms. So previously we were using, you might have Xamarin Native, so you could do something on Xamarin specific for Android, specific for iOS, and you could also have some shared code that sat beneath that.
Yeah.
But you'd have specific content for the iOS version, like the visual, the UI would be specific for iOS or specific for Android or UWP. Xamarin.Forms pulled all of that in together. So in most cases, you've got one code base. Yeah. MAUI's similar to that.
That's right. Yeah. In fact, the concept is the same, really. Because Xamarin.Forms was like, at the beginning, it was almost like a unified UI layer that you could use. So you code once, and you can reuse it on all different platforms. With MAUI, it's the same concept, but it's just done better. It's a bit more performant, I think, and it also targets Mac, so you've got another a distribution channel that you could go through. So if you're one of these, if you've got software that you want to be cross-platform everywhere, and unless it's on the web and everybody's happy doing it through the browser, you want an actual app that's running natively on your device with native APIs, connectivity. You've got to do some things, and instead of having various skill sets, it's the one skill set for all the platforms.
Yeah.
That's really where MAUI's sort of going for, I think.
Great.
And I especially like it because we were talking about React and stuff. I truly believe that, when you do web and mobile, because usually you don't tend to just do a front end application alone, but if maybe you are, but you tend to have a backend as well. And what you get to do is at an enterprise grade level, being able to do things in the one language, which for us is C#. But for the backend and the front end, you actually open up more doors for code reusability. So if I'm an advocate for clean architecture. If you build up the business layer and the application layer in C#, well, guess what? You don't need to redo those things, the validation logic, the calculations, all the stuff that's very important for the business. You do that first, and then that same code in C#, that library is just reused for the web and for the mobile and the desktop. And you don't, it's just minimizing the effort that's needed. So overall, and that kind of means you could either have a lean team or you just get things done much quicker than if you were to not do it cross-platform.
So we don't want to get into too much technicality,
because
that's maybe different. Maybe we can do something technical on another podcast.
Yeah.
Are there any things that from a business side of things, any downsides of using, let's say, what experience that you've experienced with Xamarin?
Sure.
Whether you think that's still going to be true with Maui, whether that's going to be.
I think so. Well, from my limited experience, I would say the downside of Maui more is to do with the .NET ecosystem. The frictions that I've observed is native versus this abstracted frameworks. And there's definitely friction with some people that are like, well, we've got native developers already who could do Kotlin and Swift. Why would we use Xamarin in this scenario? Because that's a new skill for them to learn. So if you've already got that, then it probably isn't the right technology stack for you.
Yeah.
So it really is to do with the people and the skills and appetite, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
And it also is a thing, we might see if you look at the job market and look at the languages that are popular. Unfortunately, it's not as popular as, for example, React or JavaScript, maybe because that's just so prominent. So again, it's matching the skills for it. But if you've already got enterprise-grade software using .NET, then it's the transition from your team to being able to do this should be minimized.
But no doubt, I'm sure some of the people will be watching this and our team alike will be expecting that Microsoft's putting a lot of marketing behind Maui. Right? Right. This is a big, whether it's a relaunch or a new product launch, whatever it is. Yeah. So presumably that's going to do something to fight back against the likes of React.js and Flutter and
Sure.
native.
Yeah, I don't know if I use the word fight. I guess they are in competition. But for me, it's about preference. And I think there's also something to be said for the kind of people who are into development. A lot of people are, like me, nerds, like playing games. They naturally do game development. And then you're talking about Unreal Engine, C++, or Unity, which is C#, right? Yeah. Or unless you're crazy and you want to do it in Java. But you're going to be doing that. It's just like that. Again, you've learned a language anyway. And also, if you're like me with a hardware sort of soft, background, you would have done a lot of C++ anyway. C++ to C# is is an easy transition. There was no friction for me. It's just one of these things that you could easily get into. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that Microsoft sort of double downs on that, and there's more people like me that's like into the .NET ecosystem. And of course, we know it's there. Microsoft's such a big company, it's going to be supported for the next few decades to come. So if you're building any software that you want to maintain over the next decade, not just the next 5 years, next decade, it's a sure bet.
Right. We'll hold you to that.
Yeah.
So
come back to me in 10 years' time. I'll still be programming in C#.
Let us know if you're watching this and you're thinking, I've developed something and I'm going to switch this, or if you're not, if you're considering using Maui, or had been considering Xamarin, what are your doubts or what are the issues that you found? We'll see if we can cover some of that in a future podcast.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And I think probably that's it, right? Unless there's anything else that you'd like to wrap up for.
Yeah. Well, this is our new office. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, apart from the trees that are encroaching on my personal space, I love it.
Loving it.
Nice and bright.
Yeah.
It's a sunny day. We've been planning. We've literally been planning to start these for, what do you reckon, 6-7 years? I remember on your interview we talked about
I only started working 5 years ago. So.
Right, but you waited a little while.
Yeah.
And
that is true.
Ed, who's behind the camera here, he joined as an apprentice in 2013. Like, he was talking about it then. Amy, who's behind the other camera, was Amy, being like after that, and we just haven't got round to doing it. So we just decided this morning,
Just do it.
let's just get on with it. So this might feel a little bit rushed and cobbled together, but hopefully it's been useful for you.
No script.
We'd love to, no script, no plan whatsoever. We'd love to hear what you think and the kind of stuff that you'd like us to cover in future podcasts. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah.
Get commenting, get liking, subscribing.
Yeah.
We'll get all this a bit slicker in the future.
Brilliant. See ya.